Hello friends! Some of you have been asking about my communion bread and my communion bread recipe. So I am going to show you today how I make this wonderful bread that is so delicious and just reminds me of the Lord's love. But first, I need to tell you the backstory on why I started making this bread. When we moved into this cottage, we bought it from a family that built it in 1953, and it had not been updated. And we fixed up most of the house, but when it got to be time to repair the countertops, we didn't do that yet because, as you know, that's very expensive to get new counters. And the reason I was getting new counters is because, as you can see, right here on these vintage 1950s green and white countertops, there's this spot where the pattern is actually worn away. And I thought, how in the world could you wear away a pattern in Formica? Like, this lady must have really been a scrubber. Well, lo and behold, her ancestors came over to visit us once we finished the renovation of the house, and they showed me this picture. And this is Miss Alice, who lived in this house with her granddaughter, who's now grown, quite grown, in this very kitchen. It's the same kitchen, if you can tell. The cabinets have been painted, but there's the stove. There's the same kitchen. And the reason that the countertops are worn away in that spot is because Miss Alice made bread, communion bread, in that spot for the local church, wait for it, for 40 years. 40 years this woman made the communion bread in my kitchen. If that won't convict you, nothing will. So I decided to get an old recipe from my grandmother that she had passed down from me. She's in heaven now. But I decided to use this recipe from my grandmother and start making communion bread. Okay, so you begin this bread with a mixture of cornmeal, molasses, water, and butter. I mean, how can you go wrong? So let me show you how you do this. In this little saucepan, I have 2 cups of water. And to this, you're going to add a cup of cornmeal. And let me show you, come over close, Jerry. Let me show you what you want to do with this cornmeal is you want to go slowly. You want to go slowly while it's boiling. So in this water, there's also a half a teaspoon of salt. But you're going to go slowly here with the cornmeal and add it into the boiling water, nice and slow, and then cook it. Like, turn your heat down a little bit, cook it on medium or low, so you get back to where it's not too rapid of a boil and you are getting the lumps out. Soften it even more. We're going to put in half a stick of softened butter, or this is hot, so it doesn't have to be softened, but just speeds the process a little bit. And you can take it off the fire and let that cool down, but keep stirring it. You can see that. Keep stirring it till all the butter melts. And then we're going to add half a cup of molasses. Remember molasses? Didn't your granny always have molasses? Look, it's even called Grandma's molasses. I'm going to mix that in to your cornmeal, and you're going to get this lovely golden brown color. I have put 4 cups of bread flour. This is bread flour. Put this into your flour. So there's that. This is the part where you take off your ring. You put it somewhere here by the sink where you won't lose it. I put mine in this little oyster this little oyster shell here. But we're gonna mix all this together. And you could do all this in the KitchenAid mixer. I have a KitchenAid mixer. If you've seen any of my videos, I love my KitchenAid mixer, and I do have a bread hook. So I could be doing this with the mixer, but I like putting my hands in it, to be honest. Add your yeast, and it's a 1/2 cup of warmish water with a package of yeast. And then we're gonna add that into the bread. Make sure all that yeast gets in there. And mix it up some more. Once it starts to form up into a ball, you can turn it out onto a floured surface. And the recipe calls for 4½ cups of flour, so I always start with 4, and then I add some flour little by little on the surface, so I can get the consistency that I want. Okay, so I've been kneading it for a couple minutes here. Get my arms, and you can see what the consistency of it is like now. It's nice and firm. And I put it right back in my floured bowl so it doesn't stick. Put it right back in your bowl. And then we're gonna do it the old granny way, because it works the best. Just take a clean dish towel for 4 hours. It needs a 4-hour rise. So I'm gonna go off and do something fun with my husband now. We're actually gonna go take our boat out for a few minutes. And when I come back, in 4 hours, the bread will have risen from the yeast. Okay, friends, our bread has been rising for 4 hours, and this is what it looks like. You see that the ball has gotten nice and big. Out under your floured surface, it'll be a little moist on the bottom. That is okay, fear not. Tip it onto your floured surface and punch it down a little bit if you're mad at anybody. And then what we're gonna do, you don't wanna work it a lot. It's mostly done what it needs to do. We're just gonna make it into 3 sections. Just work it a little bit so you get a nice round loaf. If you need a little more flour, don't worry, that's okay. But do pat it a little bit because you don't want air bubbles inside. So you want to try to get the air out. And you're going to make 3 rounds on your pan. And cover it again with the towel. And set it for a 1-hour rise. So this has been 4 hours. And now it's going to rise for 1 more hour with your same trusty towel. Okay, friends. This has been in the oven about 40 minutes, 350 oven. And see how it's nice and firm on the top. Smells wonderful. Okay, the bread has cooled down a little bit. And we're gonna try a slice. Can you see how that looks inside? So yummy. The cornmeal and molasses give it a nice, rich texture, but it's still nice and soft and bready. I think this was an old New England recipe. My grandmother called this Anadama bread. It's perfect. Keep cooking, Big Mamas.